Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will start with the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the consent agenda as presented, including approval of minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on April 11th, 2022, approval of the proposed accounts for payment, approval of budgetary receipts and expenditures for April 2022, approval of the Committee of the Whole minutes for April 28th, 2022, approval of option students, approval of resignation of Chelsea Fralin, elementary librarian, and approval of contracts for 2022-2023. Amy Hull, special education at Paddock Lane, Catherine Katz, elementary librarian, Miranda Niemeyer, high school instrumental music, and excuse the absence of Eric Book.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. Jason, do you have a treasurer's report?
I do. So for the treasurer's report for the month of April, bills were $759,625. Payroll, $1,798,683. Total expenses, $2,588,308. Revenue for the month of April was stronger than anticipated, so that's a good thing. $2,752,612. So currently, as we sit, the general fund budget is 63.38% expended, which means we're 3.26% underspent at this time. So as we head into the final months of the budget cycle, things are well.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? All right, motion passes. Moving on to the recognition portion of the agenda. Start with Employee of the Month, Dr. Nielsen.
Hey, good evening. I am excited to talk about the May Employee of the Month. I'm also excited to recognize her because in a few months, she will be parting ways and be retiring and enjoying her retired life. So, Mrs. Bonnie Moeller, will you come up? She is the May Employee of the Month. Throughout the year, there is one person who works odd hours to ensure BPS keeps moving ahead. Bonnie will rise at 5 a.m., turn on her computer, check her text messages and voicemails, log into Frontline Education to see what this day will bring. She then will begin working in the system to begin calling our para and teacher substitutes to determine who is available. She will begin to diligently fill the absences which were entered in the wee hours of the morning. Additionally, after the students and staff go home, Bonnie repeats the actions and begins to try to fill absences for the following days and weeks to come. She is constantly searching for candidates to fill the open positions to help each building start on a positive note each morning. Over the last couple of years, this task has become much more difficult, not only because of COVID, but also because the district has also hired our substitutes to fill our para and teaching positions. We've taken many people away from you. To say the least, we do not make her job any easier. Not only does Bonnie help as a substitute coordinator, she also fills in with secretarial positions when needed. She substitutes for secretaries when they have to be gone, she helps fill the summer school secretary position, and she provides extra support to the central office when help is needed. Bonnie is one of the hardest working people in the district and strives 24/7 to fill open positions. Many people think this job is easy, but in reality, it's probably one of the most thankless jobs. Bonnie receives calls, text messages, and emails at all hours of the day, has people call last minute and cancel, and listens patiently to complaints from teachers, paras, substitutes, and other staff members. Bonnie is always a friendly voice to talk to when you call, and she does the absolute best to fill positions when there just aren't enough subs to go around. With Bonnie retiring from this position, I feel that she deserves more than just the Employee of the Month. She deserves Employee of the Year. Congratulations, Bonnie.
Thank you very much, Bonnie. That is definitely a unsung hero of with our staff and principals, I'm sure. Moving on to business friend of the month, Mr. Hickey.
All right, good evening. Each month we have the opportunity to recognize a business in and around Beatrice that offers support to our mission at Beatrice Public Schools. This month's recipient has been instrumental in assisting Beatrice Middle School recognize and reward positive behavior and academic achievements. Every 2 weeks, the Beatrice Middle School recognizes students that display outstanding character with our Student of Character nominations. They get a certificate, their picture on our social media, a VIP pass for lunch line, but the fan favorite is the gift card provided by Walmart. Also, at the end of each quarter, BMS conducts a raffle for students to be recognized for their quarterly efforts. Walmart has donated items such as AirPods, Bluetooth speakers, TVs, candy, and the list goes on. For the high school, the Walmart has played a role in helping recognize the hard work that teachers do there by providing a shopping cart and gift cards for snacks and drinks to be randomly delivered to the staff as a surprise. Oftentimes, large corporate organizations have difficulty making connections on a local level. That's not the case at our Beatrice Walmart. Manager Mick Schroeder and his team have shown on multiple occasions they're willing to assist our community and assist the students and staff of Beatrice Public Schools. Many times with Walmart on the initiating it, and this is kind of going off script here, Mick, there's been a couple times where he said, hey, Andrew, I've got a couple grant things that you should apply for, and okay, here's the link to it, go ahead and do it, and those are him calling me and helping our kids out. So thank you, Beatrice Walmart, for your efforts. We appreciate you. Please help in congratulating the Business Friend of the Month, Walmart.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Can I get a picture of you two guys? We'd like to share this with our staff.
Not quite that. I was getting kind of nervous.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And now, Student Board of Education member, Mr. Alexander.
Okay. We don't have to go down front. We can do this right back here, I think, probably. So, every year, we're fortunate to have a student board member elected to join us as a representative from the student body throughout the course of the year. It seems like just yesterday, as I was at Connor's graduation reception and looking through some of the pictures, there was a picture that popped up of when he was sworn in, and it seemed like just yesterday we were doing this. That's how fast the year has gone. But we feel very fortunate to have had a student representative this year that kept us in tune with things that were going on at the district level, all district level. And that's one thing I was very impressed with. Connor, you did a nice job of reaching out to every school in the district and reporting back on what you heard from the representatives, from the principals and the teachers at each level, and we greatly appreciate that. We also appreciate the fact that you were here on a committed level as much as you could be with all the extracurricular activities you have, and I don't even know if you have a full-time job or a job, but you did a nice job of being committed and dedicated to this position. So on behalf of the Board of Education, it's my pleasure and honor to thank you for being the student representative for the Beatrice Public School Board this year.
I would also like to add that Connor represented the district extremely well at the state school board conference last fall as well. So did an awesome job in the student forum that he participated in. So again, thank you, Connor. District retirements, Mr. Alexander.
So, again, it seems impossible to work this time of the year, but as we close another school year, well, obviously you saw Bonnie here this evening. We just like to take a moment to talk about very quickly some of the people that are here, and then you as a board are all invited. We'll be invited to the recognition ceremony we have with the entire district staff coming up next week. Basically, we have 8 teachers throughout the district that are retiring, and we know of a couple of other classified staff retirees that are happening at this point. Sometimes those don't come in until later. But I just want to take a moment to talk about each one of them individually. Carol Oltman, a high school media specialist, has been with the district for 22 years. And she's been a phenomenal connection piece between students and the rest of the staff, and especially a support system for staff and everything they do for students regarding research papers and helping find resources to support the learning that's taking place in the classroom. Her job changed a lot when technology, and I had a chance to sit down and visit with her just recently. She mentioned how her job changed a lot when technology was integrated into education, and the changes that she's had to make personally in order to learn the different positions. So with 22 years in education at Beatrice, we will recognize Carol next week and thank her for her service. Tracy Post, high school counselor, has been with Beatrice for 24 years and just done a terrific job of helping guide students in the area of whatever their college endeavors might be, being there to be a listening ear. And he's also been the National Honor Society representative for, I think it was 16 years 24 years, all 24 years he's been here. So committed a lot of extra time in making sure that students of high academic content are recognized and put on the National Honor Society list to add that to their resume as well. I forgot to mention about Mrs. Oltman. She's been the student council representative for 16 years. That's the one I had in my head. Brenda Broughton, Paddock Lane 4th grade teacher, has been with us for the past 11 years. She's done an excellent job in educating some of the younger students in our district, and has, been with the shuffle that's taking place over the course of time. She's moved willingly when needed, and been a person that we could count on and dedicated for the past 11 years while here at Beatrice. Amy Breeden, Paddock Lane 5th grade teacher, been with the district for 23 years. Again, just a highly committed, dedicated staff member that, it becomes evident the impact that these people have made on our students as they start to get to Connor's age and graduate from high school. They've been a big part of that. Had a chance to sit down with Carrie Laughlin, Paddock Lane resource teacher, for 33 years here with the district, and she's been a terrific resource for all of our teachers and our students and our families. She spoke a lot about the different positions she's held in the district in regards to being the resource teacher, but also being the classroom teacher and serving her lunch. This is the first year in 33 years that she has had a lunch period. And when you think about that, that's a tremendous amount of volunteer time that has taken place over 33 years to help students that just walk into her door at lunch and say, hey, I need help with this, or can you talk to me about this, or whatever the case may be. So we'll miss that 33 years of dedicated lunch service when she didn't have to. Pamela Barnes at the middle school, speech language pathologist, will be retiring after 5 years serving Beatrice Public Schools. So she hasn't been here as long as some of the others, but definitely been impactful in working with some of our students who have speech language needs with the district, so we'll miss her as well. Deborah Tim, middle school resource for 25 years at Beatrice. And that is she just a fantastic lady with an upbeat, positive attitude, very eloquent in her speaking, very cognizant of her impact on kids, just so impressive, and having a chance to talk to her about what she's going to miss the most. And the two things she's going to miss the most is the time when the light bulbs comes on with kids, and she's worked with them for so long to get that light bulb to come on, and it finally does. She's going to miss those moments more than anything. And she's going to miss her colleagues more than anything, she said as well. So we will wish Deborah the best after 25 years of service in our district. And then finally, Jane Murphy, middle school resource teacher for 41 years. I just can't tell you what a pleasant visit it was to have with Jane and how positive she was about being a part of the Beatrice Public School System for the past 41 years and all of the things that she's enjoyed most. But she spoke really very highly of the number of administrators she's had at the middle school, and she felt very good about the current hands that the middle school is in, and she didn't want to talk about herself at all. She wanted to talk about the kids and the true impact that being a part of such a great team at the middle school has been on her and her life. So just a terrific visit. All total, that's a lot of years. I didn't total it up.
It's 184.
Thank you. The other numbers person comes up with 184 years of dedicated service that will walk out our doors in a couple weeks, and we're going to miss those folks, and we want them to know that we appreciate everything they've done. So the recognition will be next Wednesday. We'll send out the details on that to you, but we look forward to thanking those folks for their dedication to our school. So that's the teachers that we have retiring, and then classified staff, we'll also have some words for them as well on that day, and just want to take a moment of our board meeting time and thank them for all their service.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you going over that. I think that's definitely something that we need to, as a board, recognize those teachers for the 184 years of service. That's impressive. All right, moving on to the information portion of the meeting. Student update. This will be the last student update, I believe. Mr. Hamilton.
All right, thank you. So beginning with Stoddard and Lincoln, they finished their NSCAS testing and they're starting their MAPS testing this week. Track and field day was a success, and then walk the track is also this week. I think there was some of that happening today and maybe Friday, and then later on this week as well. Skating parties are starting this week. 5th grade honors is coming up, and Mr. Jansen just had a lot to say about how much fun is going on right now at the end of the year approaching, so that's great. Moving on to Paddock, MAPS tests are starting as well. Fun field trips have begun, and then their walk the track was also to raise money for a new piece of playground equipment that can be used by some of the physically handicapped students and their peers. So and walk the track was one of the ways that they raised that money. And then staff also donated trees to be sold after school. They also worked at Sunrise Bakery last Saturday morning, receiving half the sale money between 8 and 10 a.m. And then the PTO also donated some school carnival benefits, so that's great. So in total, there was $4,000 raised to go towards that new playground piece for those kids that maybe can't play on some of the other things, so that's great. Moving on to the middle school, 5th graders are visiting BMS this week. I remember being a little 5th grader, being so afraid of the middle school, but it's an exciting week. They were able to raise $1,700 to donate to Red Cross for humanitarian effort in Ukraine. 7th grade boys and girls, and then 8th grade girls won the track Trailblazer Conference meet. And then 8th graders are visiting the Homestead National Park for a full day of science activities this week. So then moving on to the high school, girls tennis played conference this morning. State is the 19th and 20th. Track has districts tomorrow in Waverly, so we'll wait to see on who ends up at state. Boys golf plays today at Beatrice Country Club. Waiting on results for that. Both soccer teams wrapped up good seasons last week at districts. And then our baseball team, we also punched our ticket back to Omaha. We will play maybe at 1 o'clock, maybe at 4. We really don't know the time yet, but on Saturday we'll play at Werner. And then student council has been announced for next year. Congrats to everybody that was elected, and staff are doing very well as we wrap up our school year. So that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Connor. And again, thank you for this past year. Committee of the Whole, Mrs. Martin.
The Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting was held on Thursday, April 28th. The first thing on the agenda was the middle school site plan, and that's the part of the strategic plan. Mr. Hickey and Mr. Stengel highlighted the following key components. areas of concern related to safety and security, and they're investigating different means of technology, meeting the mental health needs of students, marketing tools to sell BMS to future teaching applicants, looking at ways to help middle school students explore careers, and develop a continuous MTSS BPIS system to implement throughout the school. Roy Ferens then gave us a summer project update. At the high school, one of the things they're looking at is they're going to resurface the track. Middle school, repair overhead sprinkler line at the cafeteria. Preschool and elementary, they're just going to address safety issues, outside lights, dangling tree branches. The bus barn, they're going to weld a trailer box. Then meal prices, Dr. Nielsen stated that for the last 2 years, meals were provided at no cost, but Congress has not yet given the USDA authority to issue new or extended waivers. So Dr. Nielsen, in consultation with Dawn Holtis, Director of Nutrition Services, are going to recommend moving forward with raising breakfast and lunch prices for full-pay students and adults by 10 cents, and we'll talk about that in June. Dr. Nielsen then shared some data on the number of students who are currently utilizing bus transportation, and that due to the increased cost of diesel and staffing, she shared that the recommendation will be to increase the bus fee to $160 for the upcoming school year. She then informed the board that teachers are working on selecting a textbook for social studies curriculum. And then we talked about Policy 4000 series. And then we have a new speaker request form, which I think is available tonight. And then administrator and classified salaries. I'm not going to talk a lot about that because we'll go over that later in the meeting. And then also will Mr. Alexander provide an update on the elementary staffing, or the elementary building project, which I think he's going to go over with Ed later in the meeting. So that ends my report.
Okay, thanks, Doris. Jason, do we have a stance report?
Just basically with the close of the legislative session, we've pretty much ceased stance meetings as a whole. The stance leadership group that I'm a part of, we are continuing to meet for the purpose of the legislative review that will be conducted this summer on school finance. So we are, the leadership team will meet, but from the standpoint of the rest of the organization, the legislative session is concluded, so we're pretty much done.
Okay, thank you. School Community and Staff Relations Committee. I'm going to have Erin give a report on that.
All right. Eric, Trustee, and I met with Missy and her team at the preschool on Wednesday, April 27th. Typically our meetings are on Fridays, but we had to reschedule this one, so we were able to meet on a different day, which worked out really nicely as most of the staff was available for the meeting. And we discussed a wide variety of topics, including the Sixpence program, and how that's been such an asset not only to the community, but also that the added position has been an asset to the preschool and staff as a whole. Missy also noted her intent to apply for more funding to grow the program when that funding becomes available. We also talked about how the preschool is providing a much needed resource for students and families in the community, and that a wait list for the upcoming school year was started the first day of registration. This year, I can't remember how many people are on the wait list, but it was kind of a shocking number. So we also heard from staff regarding their programs and family nights, the continued need for more space to accommodate students, and the need for more para-educators in the preschool building. Overall, there have been lots of wins this year. The preschool is very different, obviously, than some of our other schools because of the littles that they serve. So the staff was happily celebrating big skills at the end of the year, like potty training, motor skills, and kiddos learning to be independent in their learning and play.
Thank you. National Conference, Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you, Eric. During my time on the board, I've been a big proponent of going to state and national conferences, as well as going to our area membership meetings, and which we have in Nebraska City, Lincoln, Kearney, York, with many different opportunities for financial meetings, for building meetings, for all kinds of different things to learn as a board member. And the ones I really like to go to are the ones that teach community outreach or how to, well, boardsmanship, getting along with board members. That's a big one, and it's really actually very important, because if you don't work together well, you're not gonna get a lot accomplished. You're too busy arguing or that kind of thing. So, building board member relationships is a big, important part of going to conventions, as well as learning concepts and strategies that help the district work through issues that other districts in other states even have. And learning to be a boardsman, that's one of the big things that when I first got on, didn't realize was really important. Steve Winter, he was a big proponent of boardsmanship, and he even spoke to me of that when I first got on. And it took me a year to realize that that was a very important part of the job. Because when I first got on, I thought, well, you just come on and you get what you want. Really not how this works. So that's one of the big things that I think is very important for board members to learn, is how to work with others. And understanding that you won't agree on everything. It's not possible. And so even though I'm right all the time, they're not going to agree with me all the time. So, and that is one of the tenets that I think that the National NASB will help teach you, is that you need to learn to work through your issues and understand that you're not going to agree on everything, but you still need to work together for the betterment of the district. So I always encourage everybody to go to as many of these opportunities as possible. This year you could definitely tell that there was a change overall in the social and political ideologies on a national level. And for instance, some of the topics that they covered in some of the ones I liked, you've all heard these on the news: equity, equality, classism, sensitivity, status, engagement, post-COVID changes. So I was a little apprehensive when I went to some of these classes, because I'm like, all right, this is not going to go well. And actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought, because I discovered that throughout the United States, most of the districts are a lot like us. The people in the districts are like us. I mean, they may have bigger schools, smaller schools. They may have different nationalities that we may not have. And so they're dealing with different things, but on a whole, you basically deal with a lot of the same things on a little different levels. And when you speak to the members of those boards, they literally are just like us, and they think like us. There are a few outliers that you see on the news, you see on YouTube, and that's not everybody. When you go to these, especially like the national conferences, because you get to meet the people and find out it's not everything you see on YouTube. And so my takeaways this year, there was a couple. First one is, going with Jason, you will learn that nobody knows you at all, but everybody knows Jason, because you cannot make it down the hallway without somebody stopping and talking. You'll never make it to any of these sessions on time, and or at all, because he'll stand there and talk. So you end up just going your own way. And also, another takeaway I had was COVID. I came back and was sick for a week and a half, which is why I didn't have this, I didn't speak about this last month, because I was homesick. But also, my takeaway is that society is more concerned with how the child is treated than with what they are taught. And to me, I hope that we as a district can concentrate more on our students' learning as we strive to be among the best in the nation. So that's my report.
All right, thank you, John. Now is the portion of the meeting for public forum citizens' requests for comments. Is there anybody that would like to speak tonight? All right, Seeing none, we'll move on to the discussion portion, starting with the new building financing. Mr. Alexander and our guest, Ryan Tronick.
Okay, so Ryan, if you'll come up to the front, I appreciate you being here tonight. As reported in the committee of the whole meeting, we were obviously trying to iron out a lot of details in what would be considered a breakneck pace, and we were able to ask Pinnacle Bank to partner with us on the new elementary project. And I just have to again thank Ryan and former President Stan Worth for all their effort in being ambassadors for Beatrice Public Schools in this project and explaining the importance of it to the people that they obviously have to answer to in their job. So there's a lot of details to this, and to be honest with you, when I sat down at the bank table with these guys and we kind of talked through the project and what it is we're doing and why we're doing it, the ideas that started to flow were incredible back and forth, and the discussion amongst the bankers was what I compare to when we have parent-teacher conferences and parents come in and we start talking about AYP and No Child Left Behind, and now it's NSCAS and NISA, and we have all these acronyms or topics that we're talking about that sometimes, if you're not in the realm of education, you don't understand. Well, not being in the realm of banking, a lot of the discussion was high level, it was over my head, but at the end of the day, what we came away with was a committed group of people to help us out in getting this project done, which made me feel really good, and I feel very good that we were able to do it locally. And so I just can't say thanks enough to Ryan and how he's approached this from the standpoint of helping us get this much needed project done. And I can't thank him enough for being willing to come tonight to explain all the details of it, because it'll make much more sense coming from him, and he'll hit the important highlights that I might miss. So Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you, but I just want to say thanks for being here.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate you guys giving us the opportunity to help you with this project. A lot of this you might already know, so I apologize if some of this is falling on ears that already know what's going on. But as Jason said, we've been working towards a finance package for the Southeast Nebraska Education Agency, our representatives, and also your representatives in that. It's a $35 million project. It's a 42-year commitment. 2-year is construction process, 40-year is the repayment amortization. During the 2 years, that would be an interest-only payment scenario. So as the construction goes up, you're only paying interest on what you've used. So after the first month, if you used $1 million and the payment is due, it would be based on that $1 million. Semi-annual payments, we work that out so that it could match up with your tax revenues. The month we can decide on something that works well with that. The interest rate is 3.65%, fixed for 7 years. After the 7 years, it'll move based on the Municipal Market Advisors Index, which is essentially a index that follows what a fair tax exempt rate would be. Speaking of tax exempt, it is a little bit different in the fact that there's 4 credit facilities. I don't know how important it is that you know those details, but to you it's going to be $35 million for the project, and it'll roll on to the next one. But in order to get a bank qualified status, you can only use $10 million in 1 year. And to put it in the easiest terms I can think of, if it's not bank qualified, the tax exempt is not near as attractive to a bank. It essentially will eventually negate the benefit of tax exempt. So to get it tax exempt bank qualified is very important. In order to do that, we had to set it through 4 facilities, 3 of $10 million and 1 of $5 million. So in 2022, there'll be $10 million available, 2023, $10 million, 2024, and 2025, there'll be $5 million. Those funds are available to you right away, but if we hit the $10 million mark before that year is up, those dollars would not be tax exempt, and they would be at 4.5%, which is a non-tax exempt rate. With having $10 million in 2022, $10 million in 2023, you're going to get pretty far, probably into 2024, before you'll even have to hit the non-tax exempt interest rate. Now that last one of $5 million, that'll be taxable for a while, and obviously until that time frame comes up. So that's kind of the gist of how the financing package works. During the construction period, we'll have engineers sign off on everything. Obviously, the school will sign off on it. I'll be there signing off, and the title insurance company will disperse the funds where they need to go. And they'll also ensure that the funds are getting distributed properly, and that there's no liens out there. That's their job to do that. So that's how the construction process will work. And then at the end of the construction project, then it will start on semi-annual payments based on a 40-year amortization. A lot of information there. Is there any questions anyone has for me? Both bond attorneys are working together to hash out the details. They're doing that right now. So you can feel confident that you'll have your side represented, and they're working with ours right now. So.
In the meeting that we had the other day, to kind of finalize the preliminary package, there was a lot of discussion about, just different hurdles that we had to cross to get to the final loan documents and all that done. And so Gilmore Bell, Mike Rogers that you've met, that kind of talked to us about the possibilities that we would have through the joint public agency. He's our bond representative, and then, as Ryan mentioned, they have a bond representative attorney that are working together to draw up all those documents. We did advertise on Friday in order to meet the 30-day statutory requirements before closing. We did go ahead and advertise those bonds, so that's all in the works. Let's see, what other details? Oh, I was just going to talk a little bit about the annual debt service payment. Ryan mentioned that it's payable in two different sections. It will total about $1 million. We did the amortization table and worked that out. It was about $1.6 million, which, if you remember, we had talked about 1.8 million kind of being the max at where we could be over the 42-year time period or 40-year term period of this, and we were able, because of the expedient work of Pinnacle and getting the 3.65% interest rate, and then the adjustable as it needed to be, that annual debt service payment would be about $1.6 million. And maybe just there's some change after that too, but I don't remember exactly what it was. So we feel very good about that payment being our annual debt service payment. It leaves us a little room of that 1.8 that we initially said we could make if we had to. It leaves us a little room to utilize the building fund for other operational services, including the high school and the middle school. So that, and D.A. Davidson is helping us with that. So with the help of Pinnacle Bank, Gilmore Bell, D.A. Davidson, and then the bond attorney on the bank side of things, hopefully we should be all wrapped up and have the finance package signed, sealed, and delivered by hopefully the second week of June. That's kind of the closing date that's set right now, and we'll have all that information ready to go when we get there.
You mentioned in 2025, the 5 million. Were we gonna be wrapped up in 2024, or is it going into 2025?
The construction will be done, is scheduled to be done in the summer, fallish of 2024, but the actual debt service payment, there'll be a $5 million payment in the bank available to finish paying off contractors that are wrapping up towards the end of that we'll have to. The billing will come in after the work is completed.
So we'll probably end up paying that's where you said the interest will
Yeah.
start, because we'll be taking it before we're able to take it.
That $5 million you'll have at 4.5% while the amortization starts.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to say thank you to Pinnacle for working with the school board locally. I like the fact that we have local people involved. It makes it much easier and a bigger comfort level, actually, for me, and I'm assuming the rest of the board, so thank you very much.
You're welcome. And again, we just thank you for the opportunity. So.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Ryan, thank you. You're welcome to stick around, but you're also welcome to depart if you
Okay.
need to as well.
All right, now we'll move on to the action portion of the agenda. First up is rescind the resignation of Ross Hoagland. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 rescind the resignation of Ross Hoagland.
Second by John. Mr. Alexander?
So a little background information on this. Mr. Hoagland is has been a middle school English teacher for us over the course of the last several years. I can't tell you exactly how many. As we came to about midpoint of this year, he has really in his mind thought that he wanted to kind of change his career path. Still teaching, but into the world of technology. And so we really didn't have an opening for him, but he decided he was going to go ahead and turn in his resignation to pursue that avenue in greater detail. As it so happened, as we got closer to the end of the year, we did have a person who's leaving our district and in computer science, so in the middle school area. So it happened, just the timing was perfect. We had that opening come up. Mr. Hoagland expressed his sincere desire to rescind his resignation and want to come back to Beatrice Public Schools. And he talked a lot about how that's been such a great experience for him. He didn't really want to leave, but he just was feeling a calling to go in a different endorsement area. That happens a lot amongst teachers when they've been in an area for a while and their interest is piqued by something else and they decide to change their career path. It just so happened that in this particular case, we could keep a great teacher around and help him in that area as well. So he asked if we would rescind his resignation, and I'm anxious to do this and help support him in his move to the computer science area, which I think he'll be great at. And Mr. Hickey has kind of guided us through all that to get him back. So that's the whole story about how that all transcended. And I think the important thing to note is that, you know, we lose teachers occasionally from time to time for different reasons. But this is one we thought we were going to lose, that we all were kind of sad about losing, but it just so happened that he came back. And I think another example of that was our STS teacher that was retiring a couple of years ago and came back to help us out with a student teacher for a year. So it does happen that we get to have those people come back, and we're excited to have that. So that's the story.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, can I have your votes, please? And that passes 6-0. Moving on, consider, discuss, and approve suspending the second reading of policy and to adopt the updated Series 4000 of the board policies. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 suspend the second reading of policy and to adopt the entire Board Policy Series 4000 as presented with the exception of 4133, and to repeal and rescind all existing board policies in Article 4 not specifically set forth and included in the newly adopted board policy book.
Second. Thank you, Doris, and second by John. Mr. Alexander.
Okay, so basically the 4000 series policies we're at a point where we're ready to adopt all of them. We did have discussion about one, that 4133, and you can pass that down, Doris, to the rest of them. That as we looked at it more closely coming into this meeting, Doris brought it to us and said she'd like to have some discussion about 4133 specifically in regards to what it said in the policy, what our practice is, and what might be a more legitimate practice in the area of helping with substitutes and keeping substitutes around. So I'm going to let her kind of talk about what some of her suggestions were, and then we can go from there.
I guess my concern was with the 30 full days of substituting before they go to be a long-term sub. I know that it's happened a couple of times. There have been people who have subbed for people on maternity leave. Typically that's 6 weeks, 30 days, it makes sense, but very rarely do we go to school 5 days, 6 weeks in a row. So I have had friends who have sub 28 days, they don't get the higher that higher salary, which I think they should. And I think if we're having that much difficulty finding subs, we need to do all we can do to make it attractive for the substitute. I know in fact that one person had 29 days and did not get that higher salary, and they do additional work. They're expected to do more as a long-term sub. So I think they should be reimbursed for that work.
The other part of Doris's comments to me were that in the policy that we had, it said that the substitute teacher would be, the amount of pay would be at the discretion of the administration at the start of the year, and we thought there's a little bit of we want that to be based on a little more than just administrator discretion. So we do have a practice that we follow that is outlined, and it talks about the rates that are determined by the substitute pay practice that's based off of the district salary schedule. So basically, we wanted to change that last sentence to make it reflective of the fact that it is based off of their salary schedule, and it's also based off of a percentage of regular teacher pay for that day. So it's all there. We didn't want to put the numbers of what those salary schedules, that specific number is, because then we would have to bring this policy to you every time the base changed on an annual basis. We'd have to bring this policy back and change that to be reflective of that number. So it is written down what that amount of pay is. And Dr. Nielsen, do you have that with you?
Yes,
Okay. Can you read that, please? Just for the purpose of everybody knowing.
yes, so for the short-term assignment, the 5 full days for the same instructor would be the rate of, our normal rate is 155, so we would put that at a rate of 175 if you are subbing for 5 consecutive days for the same teacher. For the long term, you are looking at, and I don't have this year's, but, or I don't have next year's, I have this year's. So our base salary was $36,325. The rate that we did for the long-term assignment was, when they reached that 30 days, because that is our current practice, was $195.30 per day. So if we then move it to 20, it'll become whatever, I think it was right around 197 when we configured it today. Right around 197. And the thing about that 30 days or the 20 days is it back pays. And so it starts that rate from, once you reach those 30 days, it starts that rate from day one. So that check that they receive after they reach that will have that back pay.
So when I'm looking at this, is this what you are proposing, or is what do you want to do with this?
Yes, in discussion with Doris, we just wanted to have the discussion transparently that the days would change from 30 to 20 would be the recommendation. And that last sentence says these rates are determined by the substitute pay practices based off the district salary schedule, which is what Dr. Nielsen explained to you that we use to determine that. And it's all based on the 187-day contract. And it's the base salary divided by a 187-day contract.
But we're not voting on this tonight, you're holding this, or are you wanting to vote on this?
Yes, we would.
So is that an amendment to the motion?
Yes.
I think we should have voted on the motion and then discussed, and then.
We can vote on the motion that was made, because it said with the exception of 4133, and then have a new motion that would approve policy as discussed, 4133.
Okay.
Got that? Okay.
All right, any more discussion around the topic? Okay, so we will go ahead and vote on the original motion. Can I have your votes, please? And so that passes 6-0. And could I have a amendment to the motion?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 suspend the second reading of Policy 4133 and adopt Policy 4133 as discussed and changed, which would include 20 full days of substituting.
Okay, thank you, Doris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John. Any other discussion around the amendment? All right, can I have your votes, please? And that amendment passes 6-0. Okay, thank you. Next, we have the approval of bus transportation fees for 2022-2023 school year. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve bus transportation fee of $160 for the 2022-23 school year.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Aaron. Discussion, we'll start with Dr. Nielsen.
Hey, thank you. So during the CAL meeting, we talked about increasing the price for transportation from $130 to $160 with the rising costs in personnel and diesel. This will help cover a part of the total cost spent each year for transportation. We are planning to begin enrollment for transportation Wednesday. And so we're excited to get this information out and excited to get our students enrolled, because last year when we did enrollment at the very end of the year for transportation, it made it much smoother in August. So we are excited to get moving forward. Any questions? Anything that you've thought of since the committee of the whole meeting?
Is this something that families will have to pay all up front, or will there be an option to pay throughout the year?
There will be an option to pay throughout the year, and that is included in the memorandum that will go out.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, any other questions? Discussion? Can I have your votes, please? Motion passes 6-0. Moving on, approval of the Interlocal Cooperation Act Agreement for a Technology Coordinator with ESU 5. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the Interlocal Cooperation Act Agreement with ESU 5 for a technology coordinator for the 2022-23 school year.
Second.
Second by Aaron. Mr. Alexander.
Just very quickly, currently for the 21-22 school year, we pay $104,000 for the technology coordinator assistance, which really is about 3 people that help us. For 22-23, with the minimal increase that they see on their part of the contract, it'll be $107,715, payable in 2 installments. So September 1st and January 1st, we will pay them that amount for technology coordinator services for the district.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, can I have your votes, please? And motion passes 6-0. Moving on, approval of the Interlocal Cooperation Act Agreement for Alternative Education with ESU 5. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the Interlocal Cooperation Act Agreement for Alternative Education Program with ESU 5 for 2022-23.
Second.
Second by John. Discussion, Mr. Alexander.
Really not much. The agreement language has remained the same from what it was last year.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? All right, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, approval of classified staff wages and benefits for 2022-23. Do I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve a 15-cent increase on the base in classified staff wages and approve the proposed hourly pay schedule for the 2022-23 school year.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Aaron. Discussion, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, really quickly, as presented at the CAL meeting, the proposed package for classified staff would be 15-cent per hour increase with an additional starting step. So we're bumping the starting step for every class employee that comes in. And we covered that, I think, in depth at the committee of the whole meeting. And then also the ending step to recognize the longevity of our staff members that have been here a long time. So we make sure we remain consistent that way. Total package increase would be 2.98% and equate to $138,547 budget increase. Or budget impact, I shouldn't say increase, but budget impact.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Any discussion? All right, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, approval of other contracted staff wages and benefits for 2022-23 school year. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve a 2.98%. Wait, that's the wrong motion. What are we? I think I've jumped ahead, haven't I? Yeah, I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve a 2.97 total package increase in the other contracted staff wages for the 2022-23 school year.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John. Discussion, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, also as presented at the committee of the whole meeting, the proposed package, as Doris said, would equate to a 2.97% increase for other contracted staff wages. There's only 6 people that are in that category, so the total budget impact would be $11,833.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, discussion? All right, can I have your votes, please? And motion passes 6-0. Next up, approval of administrator salaries and benefits for 2022-23.
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve a 2.98% total package increase in administrators' salaries for the 2022-23 school year.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John.
Oh, you're not gonna get Jan.
You beat her. Discussion, Mr. Alexander.
Also, as presented at the committee of the whole meeting, the proposed package, as Doris said, would be 2.98% total package increase for administrators, and be a $46,918 impact to the budget.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, discussion? All right, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion passes 6-0. Next up, approval of social studies textbook purchase. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the social studies textbook proposals for McGraw-Hill and Nebraska Adventure.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Janet. Starting discussion, Dr. Nielsen.
Thank you. So as we talked at the committee of the whole meeting, we talked about the book selection, and you were able to view the textbooks that we were looking at. Now, it was a difficult choice. However, last week we spent 2 days after school really looking at the programs and looking at the online components and determining which one would fit the needs of our students, which one fit the state standards at the highest level, and which one really helped kind of also add that cross-curricular piece. When we came to our final decision, we have chosen Impact Social Studies through McGraw-Hill, and then we are also choosing the Nebraska Adventure, the 2nd edition. The Nebraska Adventure is what we currently utilize in our 4th grade classes. So it is just the updated version, has a little bit more current information than our current text. So those 2 resources have been selected for grades 3 through 5. The total cost for both programs for the resources is $51,239.02. The materials will be implemented and utilized during the 22-23 school year.
Are those the hardback or not?
This was the hardback. This was the one that had the hardback resource. So that was a much more of a selling piece as well.
Doris, did you get all those things figured out that you take that home and study?
Yes, I figured out what Minnesota sells the most of. Yes.
All right, thank you, Dr. Nielsen. Any other questions, discussions? All right, can I have your votes, please? And motion passes 6-0. All right, on to administrative report. Mr. Alexander.
All right, so I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't stepping on the foundation's toes before I made this announcement, but I think it's important for the purposes of being in open session, which hopefully there's a lot of people listening and the ones here in the audience understand the gravity of this next announcement, but Beatrice Public Schools, in their cooperation with the Beatrice Educational Foundation, were notified a week ago, and John and Doug, I can get you this information as well, that our program here, our after-school program for Lincoln, Paddock, and Stoddard Elementary received a $169,750 federal grant. The impact of that is huge from the standpoint that without that grant coming from the federal government and the work that is done to secure that grant, it'd be very difficult to continue to offer our after-school blast program. So through the cooperation with the school providing the facilities and Doris and the Beatrice Education Foundation operating the actual facilitation of the grant and hiring of the staff and managing all the details that go along with that after-school program, it's possible that we're able to offer that to our parents for after-school care for about somewhere between 80 to 130 kids at any given time. Am I right on that?
A few more some days.
Some days. So it's a huge thing. I would also like to just note that it's the largest grant that was given in the state. And I think it's also important to note that our grant writer, Miss Lori Steerwell, was huge in the application of that grant and making sure that all the deadlines and timelines were met for that. So I just wanted to kick off my report tonight with that good news that we received, and I think it's important to do so.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's important that we say that that's for each of the next 5 years. That amount is for each of the next 5 years. And I'd also like to add that the community support was huge. We had to document the amount of in-kind and monetary donations that we receive, and we had to match that dollar for dollar. So it's very impressive, the town of Beatrice, and the amount of help that we receive from both individuals and organizations. So I want to thank the community for that, and the district for writing the grant. It was a lot of work.
Janet can attest to that, and it takes a lot of teamwork. I think that's important to emphasize. A lot of people at one point or another had to provide information or documentation or whatever it was that goes into the grant to be able to do so. So a lot of work on a lot of people's hands. The old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to get a grant, and that very much so paid off for us. So that's good information. The next bit of information also revolves around some work being done in regards to some community talk that's been out there. I just want to take a moment to address it. Questions at previous meetings about the elementary project have revolved around not just the planning phases of the new PK5 elementary building, but also stating what our plans for the older buildings will be. We've heard that numerous times in the community presentations, I think, which total about a dozen community presentation meetings that we held last fall. That was one of the major questions, and we've made progress in terms of knowing what that is, and so I just want to bring you up to speed at this point as to what it can be. We've had discussions with local contractors and local developers on the possibility of those sites becoming sites that those folks would be interested in purchasing and turning into local housing markets. So that's one option that's been discussed. It's out there, but most recently, to bring you up to date on the work we've been doing to try and obtain answers to the questions about the old buildings. As you know, because of the construction codes in place when our elementary buildings were built, they are considered brownfields now, which means because of the lead paint, the asbestos, the piping that's in there that has high copper nitrates, high lead nitrates, we have what are called brownfields on our hands, and so work must be completed prior to the redevelopment or resale of those particular buildings. And in February 2022, we submitted an application to the KSU TAB Roundtable Program, which is one of the head departments working with the brownfields in our area. So they, all over the state, they focus their attention on these brownfield areas like our old buildings, like our elementary buildings and so forth. This program works with the selected community project representatives on all aspects of redevelopment. They include real estate redevelopment, brownfield funding, leveraging and finance, along with technical, regulatory, environmental issues. And at this time, at the time we submitted the request, we asked for help with resources for our brownfield buildings. Reuse, revisioning ideas, and/or addressing environmental and health risks. KSU TAB has notified Beatrice Public Schools this past week that they would like to speak to us along with Tobias Templemeyer and the city of Beatrice presenting a planning project that they have in mind that would take place next fall to begin the planning phases of how we phase those old buildings offline. So that work is taking place. We will know more after our phone conversation, but basically this would incorporate a partnership with K-State Landscape Architecture, Regional and Community Planning Department involving semester-long efforts of the two classes, urban design and site-specific studio design, and due to other projects completed in Norfolk, Nebraska and Marysville, Kansas, KSU felt this would be a better opportunity for our district. So we're excited about what's in front of us. We'll learn more in the coming weeks, but that's a lot of information for you. The last part of that deals with the old buildings is we've also, in the last 2 days, no, I think it was last Friday, submitted grant proposals through the Nebraska Department of Environmental Energy and the Brownfields Program to help us monitor the EPA targeted Brownfields Assistance Program to tear down those buildings and remove the asbestos that's in them that we're aware of. So that's $25,000 per site. So of those 4 sites, that would be $100,000 to help remove the asbestos from them to get to the next portion of the project underway. So there's been a lot of community discussion about that, and I just wanted in open session to update the community and all of you that there is work, positive momentum behind the scenes in making sure that as we move into a new building, we are taking care of our responsibility of the old buildings as well. I know that was a lot, but I wanted to be thorough on that. So, next part of my update is regarding BCDM architecture and Houseman. We had a phone call between the architect and the construction manager last week that was very productive. We were able to make very quick, positive ground movement in terms of overall expenditure cost estimations for the building. We're right at that we're right at the $40 million to $42 million range. One thing we are very conscientious of, as everybody in here knows as well, is the cost of construction continues to escalate. So we are going to have plans in terms of what happens if that cost escalates beyond what we're able to access in the $35 million from Pinnacle Bank, the $5 million of equity we have to go into it, and we have submitted at this point upwards of about $8 million worth of grants that we feel hit us right in the breadbasket in terms of the ability to access that additional funding we would need to cover the gap. If we were to get all of those grants, we would actually have more money than we would need, and it would be great because we could pay it down sooner. And we do have a commitment to continue to try and do that as we move through this project. But the Houseman call and the architecture call was a great sign that everybody felt confident we could get it done for that projected cost that we've been talking about. So that was good. I had the opportunity to attend the Beatrice Educational Foundation Scholarship Program it seemed a couple weeks ago now, or a week ago. And I just want to emphasize what a great afternoon that is for our seniors that have worked so hard to put together scholarship applications, and they learn that their hard work does pay dividends. And so that was a great opportunity. We also got to recognize our former buildings and grounds head buildings and grounds person, Terry Brethauer, as the friend of education. And so I just wanted to thank Doris and the foundation for all their work in organizing and putting that all together. It's just a terrific afternoon spent with some great kids. So, one of which we have sitting next to us. We also had the senior reception night this past Saturday evening, and it was again just another terrific opportunity of recognizing kids for the hard work that they do. Sometimes we take for granted. We think all they do is go to school every day from 8 to 4, play a few sports after school, and that's the extent of it. But I can tell you that that's not the extent of it. They go to school, they work jobs, they take care of their families, they help out where they can, they represent our community, They play sports, they are positive ambassadors for our school. They're highly involved in other activities, whether it be music or student council or any of the other activities that are afforded to them, and they do a terrific job. And so it was a great evening, senior recognition night the other night. I will piggyback that with stating that we moved that senior recognition night to one night to focus on the seniors. We do have the underclassmen awards ceremony that I believe is Thursday at 11:30. This is the second year of doing it during the day. The reason that change was made is because it was becoming too long of an evening doing all of that at once with senior and underclassmen recognition, and we were not having a tremendous turnout of underclassmen at that program. Mr. Suter, Mr. Voigt, and the high school staff made the change to reflect having the underclassmen awards during the day when all the students could be there. That's been met with a little bit of resistance, but I think it's worth the explanation for everybody to understand. At the end of the day, we are about kids and we're students, and so having the students be at the program has been very valuable to see and recognize them. Had a chance to be the clerk of the start for the middle school track meet, Trailblazer Conference Middle School track meet last week. Just want to give a shout out to Mr. Junker and the middle school staff for putting on a great Trailblazer Conference track meet. We received a ton of kudos from the conference in terms of our facilities and how efficiently the track meet was run, and want to send out a thank you to Plattsmouth for bringing down, for bringing down their timing system to help the track meet go much more efficiently. So again, the conference works together in the betterment of the whole. Graduation is set for this Sunday. Unbelievably, it's that time. Information has been sent to board members, so I don't need to cover that. I want to take just a moment to congratulate all the students and staff for making it through the 21-22 school year, because the next time we meet, it'll be wrapped up and concluded. And I think in all accounts, it's been a wonderful year, and we want to wish all the students and staff a safe and happy summer. So with that, the last thing I have is just make note of the calendar change for the committee of the whole meeting on Tuesday, and I appreciate your cooperation in that, so I can make it out to my daughter's wedding that Thursday night. So thank you very much. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Jason. So the next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be June 13th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Administration Building. The Committee of the Whole meeting will be, as Jason just mentioned, May 24th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the Administration Building. An agenda for the meeting, which shall be kept continually current, is readily available for public inspection at the Superintendent's office during normal business hours. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Second by Aaron. Can I have your votes, please? And we are adjourned.